Okay, let's get started here. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jason Larson, and I'm head of content and marketing here at the International Institute for Analytics, and I'm your host for today's session. And welcome to today's webinar, 1000 Advisory Conversations, 5 AI Trends. In case you're new to the International Institute for Analytics, or IIA, as we typically call ourselves, we are an independent, strategic, outcome-focused data and analytics assessment and advisory firm. We help data, analytics, and AI leaders diagnose high-risk gaps in their programs, justify investments, and execute on custom roadmaps that drive alignment, adoption, and ROI. Visit our homepage for more information about who we are and how we support data and analytics leaders in making the difficult and necessary transition to advanced analytics and AI. All right, before we get started on the presentation, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. So first, please take a moment to register for our next webinar on data strategy and AI readiness on May 12th, led by Ryan Sousa, who is a fellow IIA expert and former CDAO of Seattle Children's Hospital. Ryan will explore the evolving role of data strategy empowering AI adoption. His webinar will bring together key themes that we are, in fact, exploring on data strategy in the age of AI over the next month or so. All right, second, we're excited to share a new 30-day enterprise analytics and AI baseline assessment that begins the journey toward advanced analytics and AI. IIA clients use the baseline to quickly and thoroughly quantify their maturity, reveal hidden failure points, and act on a tailored roadmap that is in their hand in 30 days. Follow the link in chat for more details on the baseline. We're pretty excited about this new assessment. And finally, we would like to extend a free 30-minute follow-on consultation with Tom Salas for data and analytics leaders on this call who are new to IIA. If you are a head of data analytics or AI at an enterprise, use the QR code on the screen or link in chat to schedule this free 30-minute consultation. A member of our team, Jack Taylor, will help schedule that call. A recorded version of this webinar and slides will be available after the presentation. All right, so with that said, we are delighted to welcome Tom Salas as our featured speaker today. Tom is an IIA expert and AI governance executive with over 20 years of experience leading privacy engineering and regulatory compliance programs. His career spans leadership roles at Google, Alphabet Verily, and IBM, where he built and scaled privacy and AI governance programs, and he currently serves as Director of AI Governance at Evidence OS while maintaining a fractional executive practice through Venturis. So today, Tom is going to shed light on key AI trends based on the analysis of actually over 1,500 advisory conversations, so even more than 1,000 from 2024 to present. And he's going to explore some core challenges related to AI operations, governance, and where enterprises stand on their agentic AI journey. So there's a lot of rich insights and findings here, and I'm pretty excited to hear what Tom has to say. So, okay, that's enough for me, Tom. I'll let you take it from here, and I'll be here to help curate questions after the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. And thanks, Ryan, also on Jason's team for helping out on this. Let me just get to the right slides. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that, Jason. Okay. I'm now going to share. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Salas, as Jason has identified. I do want to thank Jack Phillips, CEO of IIA, for allowing me to do a sabbatical with his team, specifically Jason's content and marketing team, and also Olivia Meckel. For those of you who are customers of IIA, clients of IIA, and know Olivia, she is my partner in crime on the research and the RAND side. And I was able to work with Jack's team and Olivia to look at 1,500 cases in the last 3 years, actually, 2022, looking at their cases around AI-specific requests from clients to IIA. I'm going to keep it at a certain level where I will not show any customers' names or specific solutions. And so I'm looking at thematic trends on AI, on AI, on AI requests. The core finding is going to group into about three things. As I said, I looked at over 1,500. Of the 1,500, 20% of that 1,500 requests for support and advisory services of IIA and their expert network were focused on ROI, it makes sense, ROI, technical implementation, risk and compliance. Those covered about 90% of the requests. Only 5% of those requests actually touched upon risks associated, ROI associated, change in ROI associated with talent management, change management, and AI literacy. It's very interesting in that start number. And the hypothesis from this is that perhaps the challenges seen in ROI, risk compliance, and successful technical transformations are based on workforce preparation, AI literacy, and organizational redesigns. And we'll get into some of those points in the following slides. The next point I wanted to stress as part of the conversation today is reliability of the system. It encompasses many things, but primarily encompasses workforce adoption of the AI solution, such that their comfort level can translate into addressing customers' concerns or trust issues with what they see from the AI system. So again, workforce preparation can lead to better adoption and better comfort level, building that trust with the customer. And again, this spans on AI literacy and change management. The next one is, we'll go through three use cases. The companies seen here are not clients of IIA, but they are well known in the tech space with regards to AI adoption, generating AI solutions for enterprises. And we'll cover one of these use cases is a great example of how preparation of the workforce led to successful transformation and success in customer adoption or customer reception. The other two put the tech first. They might have had a change management plan, but it wasn't as you'll see it wasn't as promoted well or developed well as the other company, and such that the solutions were not well received by the customer or investors. And all this stems to the following. Of the, again, 1,500 use cases, 20% are AI related. And you can see the breakdown here as I described it. Most of our clients, and this reflects in the marketplace too, are concerned about AI solution, AI value, ROI from the AI solution. Makes absolute sense. AI implementation and development, tech platform selection is another major concern for our clients. And the next one is AI risk and compliance. All of them make sense. The one thing that, again, as I described earlier, was what was missing in the conversations, in the initial conversations or initial requests were weaving in organizational design, talent development, AI talent, and AI literacy and change management. I point to this in that the statistic here, 5% of the total requests cover probably 85 to 90% of the value. That concept is not new. I didn't come up with that concept. It comes from both McKinsey and BCG, in that if companies or enterprises wanted to have a successful transformation of their digital solution or AI solution, a lot of the resources, a lot of the metrics and performance feedback should be focused on the workforce or the customer adoption pickup of the AI solution. And 10%, maybe 15% of the investment resources should be on the technical implementation. And you can see in the initial cut of this data set from IIA requests is that close to 90% are really focused on data, technical, and ROI. ROI in itself is developed by non-technical individuals. And so bear with me one second. If we go down this path, if your CFOs and your financial analysts are not aware of the nuances of an AI implementation, the new costs of maintaining an AI system, it's very difficult for the CFO or CFO team to have a valid or a accurate reflection of the AI implementation and the AI solution. So again, preparing your workforce, preparing your financial analyst team, having them on board during design development of your AI solution could help relieve some of the challenges of calculating ROI, and also also bridges the transition to a successful implementation. So what I call the 5% gap is actually a reflection of the stark contrast of requests coming into IIA with regards to challenge that they initially identified as things they needed help with IIA. So this is another way. This next slide cuts up the data with regards to agentic AI specifically. So of the 1,500 and the 20% of the 1,500 AI-focused requests, this subset looks only at agentic AI requests. Now, the interesting thing from this is that from 2022 to 2026, early 2026, this ends March 1st of this year. The data set ends March 1st of this year. Is if you look at the trajectory, what I call the complexity or the sophistication of the questions with regards to agentic AI, our customers are getting very, very savvy because they have been using agentic AI or piloting agentic AI, and they've become more sophisticated in describing their challenges and issues that they wanted to focus on. But again, none of these are really looking at the human component of human in the loop, human oversight, and potentially ROI tracking of what is being implemented by the agent AI. So again, common theme, focusing on technology, and not so much focusing on the human variable of the technology implementation equation. So if we were to bottom line or to summarize the current conversation, one could say that there could be a sequencing error in preparing for AI transformation or agentic AI development. And that is the conventional sequence on the left looks at or sets up the sequence as follows. Select the platform, run the pilot, scale for development, and train the workforce. This is very typical of a lot of standard digital transformation programs, frameworks. But our data looks at potentially putting that on its head and making sure that building the workforce capability precedes the development or design and development of the transformation itself. And if you think about that, it starts with the leadership, the executives designing the strategy and the vision, the business decision makers determining, where to implement the AI transformation, but also on the technical level, those who are actually working with the data, working with the pilot, those individuals whose jobs may be integrating the AI system, they're closer to the data set. They'll know if the data is drifting. They'll know if the outcomes from the AI systems aren't working the way they expected it to work, since they're the ones working with the data. They're the ones who are in the operations side by side with the now agent AI worker. So my point here is that bringing the people, your workforce, on board early can prepare them for identifying changes in the data, ensuring data quality during the pilot implementation for scalability, also being able to tell AI governance and executive leaders feedback on how the AI system is actually working in pilot or in early stages of the implementation. That's why, it's compelling to think about using maybe changing the sequencing and preparing your workforce, preparing your customers earlier on in the transformation framework. This is what we don't want to get into, is a cascade of failure, symptoms becoming crises. We'll look in the following use cases where if people, your workforce are not prepared for the solution, this what I call the talent gap could result in a error in targeting your market appropriately. We discussed originally before, there's a potential for ROI miscalculations, not being able to value the system or the solution accurately, and then ultimately a reliability crisis. Now, reliability with AI solution can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. For me, in this context, reliability has two main drivers: workforce trust and adoption, or workforce adoption, and customer trust in the customer-facing solution. So, reliability scores can be tracked through workforce adoption and any customer questions with regards to what they're seeing or interacting with in the AI system. And any complaints or call center questions can track this type of feedback loop. And that is one thing I just want to touch upon here. I do focus on AI governance, and AI governance focuses a lot on risk management and proper use case development and deployment of AI systems. But I think what I've been proposing to a lot of my clients and colleagues is that AI governance should also focus on preparing feedback loops and performance monitoring on those AI pilots, agentic AI pilots and deployments. And the AI governance then has the role of communicating success, failure, or suggesting changes to the transformation or implementation to improve the AI system output. With that, I'm going to move to the next slide, and we can talk about. My final word on human oversight is the following: if perchance we follow the canonical sequence of using change management at the end of scalability, of design development, or piloting and development and scaling your AI system, and putting change management closer to the end, right before deployment, it's very difficult to actually, there's no patch for human oversight and preparing your change management for your workforce. And all of you who have already probably gone through these transformations, this probably speaks to some of your experiences, and I laud you for going through those challenges. One thing that this talk is trying to get to is that at the time of design, having your leaders provide a safe space for your workers and your operations teams to understand and adopt and learn how the AI system is going to work could actually improve candidates for human in the loop oversight during pilot development and deployment. And you have your AI trained, AI literate workforce ready to take on that new type of responsibility in the AI age. And so it helps minimize fears of job loss, but also being replaced by a robot or an agent, but also increases the value of the person of your workforce to work at a higher value or a more strategic view or a strategic point of the AI system or AI transforms enterprise. So human in the loop validation early on helps with is a outcome of preparing your workforce. Critical evaluation skills, as we described briefly here, but also building that trust in the architecture. Now the first use case. I have a byline here that says people first, then scale. And that is the theme. This is the only use case that has that focused on developing their workforce and their ecosystem. They took many years to build their ecosystem first, working in developing their merchant ecosystem with AI tools in their carrying out transactions, sourcing products, but also shipping logistics. So they built on the two-sided platform, the merchant side of the platform, developing AI tools for them over a number of years. And then prior to launching an agentic AI consumer shopping place for consumers, the merchants were now adept at the system, understanding how AI could work, and actually could answer any questions that the consumers would have on the launch of the agentic AI consumer-facing platform. So the bold numbers here tell the success. This was launched earlier this year during the Lunar New Year, 200 million successful transactions and 300 million active users on the AI consumer platform. It is Alibaba. It is a Chinese company. However, they did take the time to, leadership had taken the time to develop their merchant ecosystem that translated into a customer-facing call center, hand-holding workforce to bring the consumers on board and be used to the change in the platform. On the flip side, and again, this company and the next two companies are not clients of IIA. The next one is fairly well known, OpenAI, another big tech company. They started their instant checkout solution in fall of 2025. And basically, the byline here is technology first, then retreat. It makes sense. OpenAI is a technology company, not necessarily a sales solution platform. But they did offer their instant checkout solution to enterprises and merchants. Here are the three things that led to a reversal of that launch in earlier this year. The consumer gap. Individuals, consumers on the instant checkout, there were reports of consumers not wanting to share their financial information with agents. They wanted to work with individuals, human beings, just to make sure that they had a name to a face to a name, that they could hold accountable for that transaction. The merchant gap. Merchants weren't comfortable with the instant checkout new solution and didn't adopt the instant checkout for their virtual storefronts. And then the compliance gap. It is the United States. Every state has potentially different state tax. And so the OpenAI solution was not could not support accurately the assigning of the sales tax for different states. So technology first, and then they had to reverse because of human interaction and human adoption and preparation, they had to reverse that launch. And then UiPath, well-known software company focusing on automating, creating solutions that automate processes for enterprises. Strong company, it's been around since 2005. Earlier this year, they launched a suite of agentic AI and automated solutions. Strong company, market loved them. However, the analysts noticing the product launches of these agentic solutions had concluded that UiPath's customer base was not prepared for these agentic AI solutions, and reflected that in the in grading in identifying that UiPath may struggle in the near term in getting customer adoption of their automated agentic AI solutions. So again, investors are able to see that, are sophisticated enough to see customer adoption, workforce preparation as key for success in agentic AI solutions. And that is the takeaway for this slide at the bottom. If UiPath's investors can identify workforce gaps, customer adoption, so can the executive leadership within our enterprises. Also prepare for workforce changes that could have real ROI impact and market attraction for these agentic AI solutions. And this is a comparative pattern that just summarizes the differences between Alibaba's success and OpenAI and UiPath's challenges with their rollout of their new agentic AI products. I do want to say that technology sophistication doesn't predict success. Neither does workforce sequencing always predict success. Also, it's a balanced approach to understanding where you've put your agentic AI, having an AI governance solution that not only monitors risk and identifies proper use cases for the agentic AI, but I propose that it has a key responsibility of watching, of taking, of following, monitoring feedback loops from operations, teams, customer complaints, and also technology issues such as data drift or model drift, and express that back to stakeholders, both executive and operational teams, on how well your agentic AI transformation is going. This is important only in that, as part of this analysis, I did track agentic AI standard development over the last 9 months. So fall of 2025 up to current day. There are about 218 major issues, specific issues that can be broken down into 5 groups of challenges in the agentic AI transformation, agentic AI adoption era that we're in. First one is security and sales, security and safety. This one, in more recently, has leaped forward as the #1 concern for enterprises and teams developing agentic AI solutions. Makes absolute sense. Market adoption and value. This started out very high, obviously because of the conversations around Gen AI, successful Gen AI transformations within enterprises, and moving on to agentic AI. Customers and investors and companies want to know what is the proper use case, what are the proper use cases for these advanced AI systems. And you'll note reliability and accuracy has stayed the same. And we'll get back to reliability again. And then competitiveness and interoperability. This refers to the different standards that are out there, say AWS's or Google's MCP, which customers, which enterprises, which tech companies have the standards that are going to be adopted in the near-term future. Right now, there's an agentic AI foundation where all of these tech companies and customers adopting agentic AI solutions are coordinating on what standards would work in which markets. So look out for agentic AI foundation, because the conversation and the development of these standards is probably going to come from that group of big tech companies. And they're not all United States, they're also European, Korean, and Chinese companies in there. So you'll get a good cross cut of technical issues married with market availability and regional nuances to those standards. And then the last one is data access control. I do want to touch on the reliability aspect one more time. In the context of this, reliability refers to not just the agentic AI system being stamped, yes, this is reliable, but what goes into it is workforce adoption of the technology such that they are cognizant and knowledgeable and can critically evaluate the outcomes of the agentic AI system, but are also there to handhold and build trust with the customer base if they have questions or questions about the AI systems. So I purport that if you have a stronger workforce, your reliability metric that could be found through performance feedback loops, and monitored by your AI governance, that reliability statistic would be an important metric and would rise to mirror any type of successful AI transformations. This just says that it's time now, because to move into to think about this, AI governance in the context of not just risk management, but also and use case validation, but also with regards to workforce transformation, change management. And then this is your cheat sheet, your takeaway for this conversation. Talent has a lot of the challenges that we're seeing at the IIA level in the requests that are coming in, challenges that have been identified by our clients. They lead to talent as potentially reducing a lot of those questions, but also reducing the initial angst about, what target market do I need to have? A knowledgeable, well-trained, AI literate workforce can help identify what those markets are and feed that information back not only to AI governance, but your market research teams within in-house. ROI, and certainly we've talked about this a number of times, but an AI literate financial analyst working with data engineering teams, working with operations teams, can identify the changes not only in the processes of that are being changed over to automation or to agentic AI, but they can also identify the new costs that have not been in the balance sheets pre-agentic AI solutions. So the costs and the benefits could be identified early on by your financial analysts. And there's the leadership gap. I do want to stress that it's not just the CEO, it's your line managers, it's your directors, providing a safe place for using your AI tools, perhaps also showing that, in the development pilot, it is okay to make mistakes. But the idea here is that it's a journey that starts early and starts early with your colleagues in the enterprises who are looking to adopt or integrate AI systems. And then the last two are around lead implementation, and the last one is peer learning. All of these have a human component to it, and all of these could potentially cause challenges to your implementation and successful transformation. Peer learning is an important one. You've heard of the concept of shadow AI. Shadow AI is a risk to your enterprise, employees using non-sanctioned Gen AI solutions. However, the other aspect of shadow AI has not been really discussed, and maybe it's a nuance. But the idea here is that pre-AI as a support or as a coworker in your having Gen AI available to you as an individual worker is a boon. It can increase your efficiency, but it also potentially could subtract from the knowledge transfer from a mentor to a junior employee, from coworkers on the same team on a challenging project. Not being able to share those mistakes, questions, could set back your progress, the company's progress, but that is on a case-by-case basis. These are only anecdotes that I've heard from different customers, that there is a challenge in developing trust because knowledge management, knowledge transfer is now not as prevalent as before. The longer you have, now that Gen AI is a tool that individuals can use. However, it is just part of the change management coordination that you can minimize the effects of shadow AI and its negative impacts on peer learning if you have a proper change management framework. So I have a number of operational things that your teams can look at. The first two I'm going to highlight as important. One is the data infrastructure and unifying the data infrastructure and eliminate silos. This is a challenge for pre-AI systems, making sure that you have a unified data infrastructure. I get it. It's probably going to be a very hard thing to change. However, the other factor of this is that you can empower the individuals, the workforce, to understand that maybe their jobs may be maybe the rote aspects of their jobs may be used by agentic AI or AI systems. But there's still value in that person's ability to understand how the whole process works, where the oversight should be implemented, where the alert should be if the AI system is acting aberrantly, and being able to identify where the data issues are. If there's a change in the data or if the quality of the data is bad, then they can anticipate or diagnose why the AI system is acting aberrantly. So the unified data infrastructure and eliminating the silos is important from a data quality perspective. That's true. But also from a workforce perspective, it increases that human in the loop preparation or that human in the loop validation and accuracy. And then the second one is, I touched upon this earlier, creating a psychological safety and transparent incentive framework for AI adoption. This is highly dependent on the enterprise and the teams that are using, purporting to use agentic AI. These slides will be available to you so you can go through these high and medium priorities. And the takeaway here is 3 hard questions for leadership. I'm going to call attention to my colleagues Nan Lee and Adam. I forgot the gentleman. Nan Lee and Adam both spoke at an IIA summit fall of last year. And when asked about when is it, how to determine whether an AI pilot will be successful, they pointed to 2 very key things. And you may not be surprised by it. Adam pointed to, if you do not have a human being SME who knows the process that you're proposing this agent or AI system to take over or to transform, then you're likely not going to be as successful as you want to be. The idea is, he was pointing to, that the process from end to end, you have an expert who can determine when the AI system is acting aberrantly. You have an embedded human in the loop oversight. Makes sense. If you don't have that initially, who's going to make sense of the AI outcomes if you implement this blindly? Nan pointed out the point about unifying data infrastructure and eliminating silos. She pointed out that the individuals who are being replaced or whose jobs may be at risk because of the AI system are the actual experts in the data quality. And so potentially losing those individuals could impact your ability to identify data quality issues during the transformation and implementation of your AI systems. So I just wanted to point out those 2 things from both experts in the IIA network. This is another cheat sheet you can have, but with that, Jason, I'm going to end my talk and I'm ready for any questions. And thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you, Tom. That was great. Some very interesting data, some interesting findings there. So we got a few good questions through the Q&A feature. For folks in the line, please send your questions in chat or Q&A, and I will shepherd them to Tom. So let's get started here. Why don't we start with this one? So you're basically you're kind of arguing workforce capability should come before platform and pilot selection. That's kind of one premise here that we can tease out through the presentation. So one question that a participant had is, what should I stop doing tomorrow if my organization has already kind of gotten started on this, but in reverse?
So the technology is leading it's very typical. I'm not saying they're going to fail at all. And there's still time to implement change management. I would stress using a very structured change management framework like ADKAR, which is basically, let me get to my notes on this. So ADKAR is a framework that covers change management. It's awareness, knowledge, I forget the acronym, but using that to track change management and those who are involved in the development would be helpful. If the technology is really ingrained only in the tech teams, then you still have a long way you to go before deployment. So the change management is going to come in. You're not necessarily going to fail. It's just going to be challenging to identify your ROI. It's going to be
Mm.
challenging for workers or your colleagues to say, oh, I wasn't involved in design, but now you're forcing me to use this. That could be managed on the HR level or the learning level. It's not too late to start, but it's better to start than never. I hope that
Okay.
makes sense, the individual. Sorry to get
Yes.
there in a long way, but go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So it's never too late to start, of course, but if you can front load it, then that will kind of put you on a better path for success.
Yep,
Yeah.
agreed.
Okay.
Sorry that
Um,
took me long.
no, yeah, no, that was good. So we've got a question here from our friend Keith Moody. How you doing, Keith? So you've emphasized a people-first approach to AI, which I agree with. In organizations that have underinvested in data foundations, how do you determine the minimum viable governance needed to support that without slowing adoption?
That is the balance. Um, there were some of IA customers have been really good at slowly developing the AI literacy and developing both a center of excellence and so the AI governance has to be able to have the trust of the executive leadership
Hmm.
to build in patience and measured progress that has to, they're the fulcrum of the communication to the stakeholders and the development of the feedback loops and performance monitoring on the operations side. This is a whole new way of understanding transformation within the enterprise. So it's going to take a top to bottom, bottom to top culture change. And no one likes this phrase. I get it. It's just you're going to face a lot of technical challenges, which we have seen in the last 2 years with regards to Gen AI adoption and transformation, and now agentic AI, kind of a pullback with regards to where it does too much. We don't want that communication is an AI governance responsibility that probably needs to be developed when you develop your AI governance, or needs to be developed now. It isn't just use case validation and you can go, and then we'll tell you when, and then we'll turn it off when when no one's using it. I've seen AI governance teams only focus on AI use case validation and then lifecycle management when people stop using that AI system. There needs to be a stronger AI governance framework with regards to what their responsibility is and their communication. That's the proponent. That's what I talk about with clients. It takes baby steps, but I would start with risk management and communication as your minimum viable responsibilities. Communication will lead communication with regards to what is the vision from the executives and what is the success or failures or challenges with regards to the implementation. That is repackaged within the AI governance team to communicate out to the rest of the enterprise. Those are the two things with regards to AI governance.
Okay. Okay. So as a chief data and analytics officer trying to justify more investment in workforce readiness, what proof points should I take to my board or CFO to show that talent readiness is not a soft issue, but a value creation issue?
Um, that I'd like to take some time on. So if I could take that back and get back to this individual, I would. And then, my answer can be shared with them if that's all right, Jason.
Yeah.
Is an excellent question. It depends on the CFO's perspective on um, operationalizing agentic AI or advanced AI systems, because the cost structure is different. And so I need to understand what's their tolerance of developing cost structures that have never been seen before in that
Hmm.
CFO team. And
Okay.
then, does that make sense? I hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, so that's great. So take some time on that one and we can report that report a fuller answer out.
Thank you.
So going to your reliability stat at 13%, despite technology improvement, from your
Yeah.
perspective, what specific human capabilities are most often missing?
Okay. The reliability issue is a certain comfort and understanding of what AI systems are.
Mm,
I've seen a lot of teams, a lot of individuals who face AI transformation as an edict from on high. Like, oh, we have to like have some sort of AI system. Um, One thing is early on in the Gen AI field, it was very easy to say we're going to buy a whole bunch of Copilot licenses, and now we have an AI. Our company's using AI. That's not really an implementation or a solution, um, and it shows that the fits and starts of Gen AI use cases showed lack of reliability. With regards in that reliability was based on adoption, understanding what the Gen AI could be used for. Also, AI governance and legal teams saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we can't have Gen AI, in this pervasive use." So, bringing the workforce with the decision makers on the Gen AI tools should be early on, so that individuals are comfortable with the idea of agentic AI, what they can potentially use it for, but also being able to have that the second aspect of bringing in the comfort level, but also having the ability to communicate with the AI governance team and the legal team, or the compliance teams about how it's being used. Don't be afraid to share how you're using it, but also don't be afraid to share what the different prompts you're using, how you're using it in automating your processes with your coworkers. So maintaining that pure learning aspect that I talked about. So reliability has it interlaces with a bunch of the other aspects, but it is first the individual's comfort level with the technology.
mm, okay. So you're hinting at this here. But another question that came in is really, how would you recommend I assess whether my current leadership team in fact, is AI literate enough to govern an agentic AI program as opposed to just sponsoring one,
Sponsoring, I suppose that means like bringing a third party to.
or sponsoring one internally
Yep,
versus, being able to, actually sort of support in the governance of the program.
yeah. So you really should have the executives on board, or one executive to be the proponent. That's why there's now a trend to bring in a chief AI officer,
Mm,
who understands the technology, but also can oversee the uh, the what is it the business side, the implementation side, the executive oversight side. And so you kind of need to find those aspects of a chief AIO, in your executive leadership. It doesn't have to be C-suite. It could be a very influential director. It could be a senior management working with a director or a VP. It's a it's a group of influential individuals that can that are knowledgeable of the technology and of the operations, such that combined, or the most senior person of that cadre could influence the executive leadership. It Trying to convert an executive leadership team into becoming chief AIOs, or completely Gen AI literate is going to be very difficult.
mhm.
So the idea is take what you've got and let the operations teams work on operations, and bring whatever most senior executive management that you've got along, as your mentor, as your advocate to the senior management, or to the most senior management and above. So make that their responsibility to provide cover, or um, acknowledgement or mentorship for your work at the operational or technical level. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, going back to your roadmap, you had a few slides there with the roadmap. I thought there was some good stuff in there. There was a question that came in around the psychological safety and transparent incentives,
Yeah.
transparency incentives. So, in practice, the core of the question is how do I convince employees that AI adoption is about role elevation rather than role elimination, especially when they may not believe leadership.
I know.
This is a very, as you
I
know,
know.
right? This is a very complicated issue. So, what advice do you have?
This, I believe, is part of the communication aspect of responsibility of AI governance teams, which has not been really exercised in some of the AI governance teams I've worked with. Um, AI governance should be tracking, I believe, is a key responsibility to look at performance metrics, adoption, and challenges by the AI workforce. And by challenges, I mean they don't. A challenge is I'm not going to use this because it's just going to replace me. I've seen that, but that's a that's a very difficult one to work with. But for the most part, it is a tool that can be used and also elevate the individual's um, current work responsibilities. Working with the direct line manager on with teams to say, look, we're not trying to replace you. We're trying to implement more efficiency, and this helps you do more of the management type work that we need you to do. It's a perform. That's the incentive, is that we're going to increase your value to the company and your skill set by making you more of a manager and not trying to replace you. It is the challenge is redefining the job descriptions in flight. And not many people do that because people think jobs are, I sign up to be X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be my role. And I'm either going to be a senior of this role or, a director of this role. But the roles themselves are changing because of the technology. And that's not a bad thing. The value is in making sure that the technology benefits the company, but also performs in the proper way. That's the new job responsibility of everybody who's using this technology is if you're going to use it, you should know that what the outcomes are and how to intervene if necessary. Everyone could be a human in the loop overseer of their technology in their workspace. It's not a bad thing. It's just job change in flight. AI governance, I think, should oversee those, not necessarily develop those protocols. It's the line management that I believe should probably own that. But that means training the line management to identify changes in the job descriptions.
Okay, great, great. All
I
right, well,
appreciate it.
that wraps up the questions from the audience. So thank you all for sharing your questions and comments. Very much appreciated. Tom, thank you again
Yeah,
for your analysis of our advisory conversations. Very rich stuff, very
appreciate it.
interesting. Again, we will share a recording of the webinar and slides to the participants so you can listen to it again and have those slides at your disposal. Please take a minute to give feedback on this session. It really helps us develop timely and relevant content for the community. A box should have popped up on your screen. And stay tuned on our email and social channels for tools and resources and other content to help you with AI challenges. A good place to start is our AI resource hub, which answers questions like, how do we turn our AI ambition into business outcomes that leadership will recognize and support? How do we deploy our AI safely when our data and governance foundations are still maturing? And how should we structure our teams and operating model to accelerate AI across the enterprise? The Hub has expert frameworks, exclusive roundtable, peer insights, as well as key takeaways from real expert exchanges at IIA. All right, well, thanks again, everybody, and onward and upward. Have a great rest of your day.